How's it going, Star Seekers? My name's Luke and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at Haven, a story-driven role-playing game with an emphasis on exploration. Developed and published by the Game Bakers, the studio that brought us Furi in 2016, Haven follows the journey of two fugitives and lovers called U and K, who are on the run from the repressive society known as the Apiary. After fleeing through a kind of wormhole comprised of a mysterious substance known as Floor, the two then crash land on a strange planet called Source. There they must learn to survive, foraging for food and fighting off hostile fauna, as they work on repairing the damaged ship and unveiling the mysteries that the planet holds. Haven sure holds plenty of intrigue, but can it hold your attention and is it worth your money? Let's get into this review and find out. So Haven's story begins simple enough within the homely confines of U and K's spaceship known as the Nest. Here we meet our characters for the first time as we see K cooking up something tasty, and we immediately engage in dialogue between the two, which I will say now is something that the game puts heavy emphasis on. As you get to playing the game, our two protagonists discuss many topics, from the current situation they find themselves in, to the past events which lead up to it, and their future together. So if you aren't into deep storylines and lots of interaction between characters, then Haven may not be the game for you. The game is fully voiced though, meaning you aren't forced into reading its vast amounts of dialogue, and I personally enjoyed the interactions between the two characters. The relationship was believable, I enjoyed learning about the history, and the game kept me engaged as information is slowly revealed throughout the playthrough. Now the story follows U and K's journey as the day-to-day life sees them travelling between islands, making new discoveries and trying to understand the meaning behind the abandoned buildings that litter the planet's surface and its connection to the aviary. After a seismic event destroys almost every part of the nest, the two must then search for salvageable parts to replace damaged ones, in the hopes that they might once again get the nest airborne before the aviary discovers their location. Gameplay in Haven spans several genres, but it's essentially an exploration adventure game with role-playing and resource management elements. While inside the nest, you navigate the ship from a first-person perspective, interacting with different aspects of the ship, and while sometimes these serve only to progress the game's storyline, everything more or less serves a purpose. The kitchen, for example, allows you to cook up different meals, some of which restore your health and can be taken on long journeys with you. The main hall features several pieces of machinery, which allow you to upgrade your equipment or synthesize consumables to heal you or provide buffs in battle. And the bedroom? Well, let's just say that Haven isn't the most child-friendly of games, though the risque stuff is merely suggested by the game's dialogue. Now, once you venture out of the nest onto the planet's surface, the game transitions into a third-person perspective as you take control of both characters simultaneously. The game does feature a two-player co-op mode, though this is not your typical split-screen scenario, and the majority of this takes place during dialogue and combat events. To navigate the vast number of islets which comprise Planet Source, both K and U are equipped with a pair of anti-gravity boots, which allow them to glide the way around the landscape. In order for these to work though, they need to occasionally gather floor, a strange blue substance which can be collected by navigating along floor threads. Initially these are surface-based threads, but they soon discover airborne threads which allow them to travel to out-of-reach places, though in order to do this successfully, you need to keep in close proximity to the floor threads, which can sometimes be a little tricky. Now as you get to working through the game and exploring Source, you generally have two main objectives. Firstly, you need to gather materials which come in two forms. You have edible ingredients gathered from various plants and trees. Which can be combined together to create a variety of meals or used to synthesize drugs. And then you have something called rust, a strange red substance which covers the surface of many islands, and rust can be used to create items consumed in battle, but its main use is going to be with repairing the ship. Your second objective is to find and salvage materials to repair your ship and upgrade your character's equipment. The game contains around 40 or so islands for you to explore, and replacement ship parts are found strewn throughout these. Traversing all of these islands on foot can be quite time consuming, but luckily you gain access to a fast travel system a short way into the game, though you do have to fully purge an island of rust before you can fast travel to it, and it can be a little tedious locating every last rust spot. Now, many of the island's inhabitants are pretty placid, some allow you to even pet them, but some of them have been driven wild and attack you on sight. You can avoid most fights in the game by putting enough distance between you and the creatures, but if you haven't eaten for a while, your movement speed is slowed, so you've got no chance of outrunning them and combat is inevitable. Getting into the game's combat, it kind of has a real-time combat system where each of your controller's face buttons performs an action. When playing 2-player mode, controls are split, but if you're playing solo, you control both players' actions simultaneously, with the D-pad controlling K's actions while the face buttons are used to direct you. Now you have both an impact and blast attack, each of which work well against different enemies, and you're able to perform duo attacks which work well against bigger enemies, though this does require a bit of precise timing. To defend against enemy attacks, you can put up shields, and one character is able to defend the other as they attack. After reducing an enemy's HP to 0, you then have to pacify them to remove them from the battle, but you have to be quick as they'll get back up and rejoin the fight after a short period. Like the rest of the game, the combat system in Haven isn't complicated and it doesn't deter from the overall relaxed atmosphere, but it does have some strategic elements to it when fighting certain enemies, and I enjoyed its simplicity. Now, when it comes to finding ship parts, they generally stand out quite clearly, but they're often guarded by more powerful monsters, as are some of the ruins, and these require a bit more coordination to defeat. Enemies do become a little more challenging as the game goes on, but overall Haven is not designed to be a challenging game, and as your characters interact with each other and the bonds between them become stronger, you'll fill a bar which sort of acts like a level up system, unlocking additional skills and increasing your max health. So when it comes down to it, I personally had a good time playing Haven. I enjoyed the gameplay loop of exploring and finding items to progress the storyline, and I thought it was quite clever how the whole game revolved around the theme of forming connections, be that between you and K, the way in which the islands are connected, or the connection between you and its wildlife. When it comes to Haven's visuals, if you've played Furi, the game makers have gone for similar stylized visuals, though they have toned down the neon a little. While I did enjoy the visuals, as expected, the resolution and draw distance of textures has been reduced, and while there isn't a huge amount of visual variety from one island to the next, the game's day-night cycle, which paints the land in hues of purple and red, is still a thing of beauty. Sound-wise, the game's sound effects were very nice, but it's the voice acting that's the main star, though I did experience a few minor issues with the volume of the voices, with them being slightly quieter or louder at times. Haven's soundtrack is a mixture of ambient electronica music, which remains soothing and relaxing whilst gliding your way through the world, but then you get some nice beats kicking in after entering combat, and it's definitely one of the most enjoyable soundtracks I've heard this year. Now, when it comes to issues with the game, there are a couple that I have to mention. Firstly, the process of gathering materials can be a little tedious. You need these for maintaining both your hunger meter by eating every day, as well as creating healing items, so expect to be frequently making detours to scavenge for more of these throughout your playthrough. My second and more pressing issue is with the crashes that I experienced whilst playing. Though not overly frequent, I did get around one crash per hour, which can be pretty irritating. Luckily, the game auto-saves whenever you enter an area, so you don't lose that much progress, but hopefully they'll patch and fix this issue as soon as possible. Finally, there are quite a lot of loading screens as you transition between islands and between the nest, and this is something that less patient players might have an issue with. Overall though, I enjoyed my time playing Haven. The storyline and characters were engaging and believable, the gameplay loop wasn't overly demanding, and the combat system kept things simple. When it comes to a rating, I'm going to be giving Haven 3 out of 5 stars. Haven offers an overall relaxing gameplay experience, and while its storyline is a little soppy and cheesy at times, there's also plenty of intrigue to keep you hooked. You can get Haven from the UK Switch eShop for £22.49 or from the US eShop for $24.99. Alternatively, the game's also available on PlayStation, Xbox and Steam. And with that, we come to the end of this review of Haven. If you enjoyed it and it helped you out, hit that like button, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel where I upload new reviews of Nintendo Switch games every few days. For now though, I just want to thank you all once again for watching, and until next time, take care of yourselves and game on.